Mr. Na is the service engineer for ABC Electronics' downtown customer service center. He has the Midas touch when it comes to repairing broken electronic devices. But in the past year, he has received the most customer complaints.
제가 짜증을 내다니요. 아니 반말이야. 당신 몇 살이야? 반말이야? 어? 끊어. 에이.
Now there is talk about firing Mr. Na. What is the right choice for Director Kim to make? Should he fire Mr. Na, or should he let Mr. Na be? Hello, I'm Luke from IGM. How many decisions have you had to make today? The French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre explains that life is C between B and D. C represents choice, B represents birth, and D represents death. Thus, Sartre philosophized that we're living in a world of choices. As seen in the opening, Director Kim is faced with a decision about Mr. Na. But decisions like these aren't easy. They're a huge source of anxiety. What if the wrong decision is made? Chip and Dan Heath, the authors of Made to Stick, which has been called one of the 3 must-read books for business, and Switch, praised by CEOs around the world, the Heath brothers have come out with a new book, Decisive, that offers methods to lessen this decision-making anxiety. In their book, the Heath brothers say that avoiding the traps in each level of decision-making leads to more successful decision-making. To do this, there are several points that must be paid attention to in each stage. Let's take a look at the scenario you've just seen and identify the hidden traps in each level of the decision-making process and their solutions. First, the moment a problem occurs is when there is a confrontation with choice. As the situation with Mr. Na escalates, Director Kim starts to think, should I fire Mr. Na? However, by doing so, Director Kim has already fallen into the first decision-making trap. As soon as the thought, wouldn't it be better to fire Mr. Na, enters Director Kim's mind, instead of thinking of other alternatives, the only thing he will contemplate is whether to do it or not. That's just a TV drama. Who would do such a thing, you ask? However, according to the research results of one of the foremost experts in the decision-making field, Dr. Paul Nutt, states that 71% of real CEOs react like Director Kim and don't consider other alternatives. Unfortunately, there is a 52% chance that decisions made like these result in failure. While if more than one alternative is considered, there's only a 32% chance of failure. So when you're confronted with a choice, you must widen your options. In other words, consider various other alternatives. Director Kim has other options to choose from: reassignment, training program, or instead of firing him, restricting him from direct customer contact. He should have made many alternatives and then start the decision-making process. Second, compare, contrast, and analyze the different options you have. Let's say that Director Kim was able to avoid the first trap of decision-making and has several alternative choices to choose from. Now he must compare, contrast, and analyze the strengths and weaknesses of each one. But what if Director Kim had already labeled Mr. Na as an undesirable employee? Director Kim would most likely be leaning towards firing Mr. Na. If that's the case, Director Kim will only concentrate on the information that will reinforce the decision to fire Mr. Na, his mistakes, his tardiness, etc. This is the second trap of decision-making: confirmation bias. This is the tendency to favor information that confirms beliefs and disregard information that goes against one's beliefs, much like Director Kim. Naturally, the chances of Mr. Na getting fired increases greatly. Looking at it objectively, even though not firing Mr. Na would be the best choice for the company. When analyzing alternatives, you reality test your assumptions. In other words, make sure that you are judging objectively. For Director Kim, this would entail discussing the matter with employees who have different opinions and talking to other executives who have experienced something similar. Third, now the moment for the final decision. Director Kim is faced with a really tough decision. If he fires Mr. Na, he has to find a replacement and train him. He doesn't fire him, and he's overwhelmed by complaints. Restricting Mr. Na from direct contact and hiring a part-time employee to handle it would be an added cost. It's very easy for a person to get caught up in all of these concerns and weaken their decision-making abilities. This is the third trap of decision-making, getting too emotionally involved. When it comes to a problem where something has to be sacrificed between someone and their company, decisions become harder. When giving advice to a friend, it's easy to be completely objective, but when it's your own set of problems, things do not look so simple. This often leads to an incorrect decision based on emotions or putting the decision off entirely. In order to avoid this trap, one must attain distance before deciding. In other words, distance yourself from the situation. Director Kim needs to stop agonizing over what decision to make and think about his company's core values. If the company places an emphasis on harmony and balance, then Mr. Na should be fired for causing problems. If the company's values lie in the development of employees, Mr. Na must be trained to handle customer service better. Fourth, the decision must be carried out after careful deliberation. Director Kim made the decision to hire a part-time employee for customer service, which would allow Mr. Na to solely concentrate on technical repairs. He was sure that complaints would decrease and Mr. Na's productivity would increase. But would this story have a happy ending? No, not at all. The moment he is so certain, Director Kim has fallen into the last trap, overconfidence. No matter how much planning and preparation is made, nothing is perfect. There are always certain things that can go wrong. Even after a final decision is made, additional supplemental decisions must be made. This is the best decision. Everything will work out. The hidden dangers and signs of a bad decision will not be recognized. This overconfidence will make one blind to their surroundings. So prepare to be wrong. In other words, always prepare for failure in your decision. For example, Mr. Na, who lacks social skills, might not get along with the part-time employee assigned to him. This can be prevented by giving some background information on Mr. Na before they start working together. In addition to the extra cost of hiring a part-time employee, an alternative course of action must be considered in case Mr. Na's performance does not improve. So what do you think? When you make decisions, do you find yourself falling into these traps? In order to avoid these traps and make good decisions, think about RAP for each stage. You'll find yourself being more confident about making the right decisions.